Hello, people of the world. This is Wings of Whimsey with your host, Ryan Hunt. Today's episode, Rush. I'm going to call this the Rush episode because we can. If you don't know by now, this is my podcast. This is a podcast about basically things that happen in my life, and events that I am learning to overcome. The reason we're calling it episode rush is simply because I have felt like I have been rushing to do things lately, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. Um if you can, awesome, because this episode is going to speak to you. So, w- let's go back, right? We're going to take it back to when I was a kid. And I've always felt rushed to do things. Now, this is nothing against anybody in my life or anybody in my family who has been there and seen what it's like when we were growing up. But I have always felt that sense of rush. Like, that feeling of when you used to wake up late for school or something, or you were late for an event, and your parents and other siblings and stuff were like quickly trying to get you to move or do it in a fast manner so that you're rushed, you feel rushed. In these moments of feeling that rush, I have always turned to frustration. I always get really, really, really frustrated when I get rushed in these moments. For example, when I was a kid, I would wake up late for school or something, right? And my mother, no offense to her again because I love my mom, but like she would rush us to get around, and this is just a typical example. Everybody gets rushed at some point. And instead of feeling panic or letting my anxiety take control, it was more of a frustration. I would get overwhelmed and frustrated and not really know how to handle these things. So anger came out of frustration. And building on top of that, not being emotionally sound enough to, I want to say, not being emotionally sound enough to contemplate these feelings, I would immediately jump to anger and frustration. And I would let my anxiety start pouring into that frustration, right? If you ever felt this kind of anxiety or frustration, you know how this feels. Like it can grow into something that you're not expecting it to. And it can be surprising. And this is when I was very, very little that I can remember certain moments of my life where I was rushed or pushed to do things in a fast manner that was, um, I want to say, acceptable to people, right? I guess acceptable is not really the word that I'm looking for. Exemplary. No, I wouldn't really know how to say it, because being frustrated when I was very little was easily mistaken as like I'm just a child. I'm just adolescent. Uh, and it wasn't really taught to me like your brain's not fully developed yet. That never really sat into my mind that I need to process these emotions. I need to process this stuff in a manner that's acceptable because when I was at that age, it wasn't easy for me to do that. Going along with the last episode, ADHD was very hard on me. It did things to my brain that I didn't even realize it was doing at that time, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. So being rushed through those emotions, being pushed faster and faster through those emotions, didn't give me time to process those emotions, if that makes sense. If it does make sense, we're on a good track. I brought a cup of coffee in for this episode. Um, I've never really done that. I've never really actually had drinks on hand when doing these, because before I would need a pair of headphones to confirm that my microphone is making noise. Now I've got a little bit of a budget, so I've been upgrading my microphone setup. I've got a stand finally, and I've been working on a budget for the podcast. The webcam was something that I've had for a long time. The lights is something that I've had for a very long time, but getting the microphone set up and stuff like that, I took my time doing that because I didn't want to rush into um making a decision like that without financially knowing exactly what's in store. Um that goes along with rushing. I didn't want to push and rush this podcast into something that isn't organic or natural, right? That's what I really wanted out of this. I wanted something natural and organic. And learning how to do those things, it takes a lot of patience, you know? Um, learning about patience a lot this past year. Letting things happen in succession and not really letting things that are rushing or not like a pressing matter push me into making decisions that aren't fully thought through, right? So, when I was a teenager, right, I would see something that I really wanted, and I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't process how I actually felt during that time. I would just jump on whatever floated to my brain, right? I wanted a new watch. I would go buy or get a new watch. There was no contemplating on if I was going to get it, where I'm going to get it, how much it's going to cost. It was just I'm going to do it, right? Rings, same with rings. If I wanted a new ring, I would just go get those rings. I wouldn't hesitate on that. And the rush of doing those things and not thinking them through really created an imbalance in behavior, as in I have a hard time accepting gifts now from people. Because if I want something, I just go get it for myself. I had this trouble when in a relationship because I would force myself to go get what I wanted, and I would not accept the fact that my person in my relationship could get it for a gift, right? And show their appreciation and love by buying me something that I really wanted. So, rushing to making those decisions really, really put me in a spot where wasn't thinking all the way through, you know? Um, I never had the time to process the emotion. I never had the time to actually sit and contemplate what was going through my brain or what the emotion was that I was processing when I was doing these things. Um, so tips that I have now for patients. The first one, and it's a big one for me. I don't know if it's gonna help anybody else, but if it does help you guys, thank you. Um, basically, the first thing I do when I feel this sense of a rush is I stop. I immediately stop everything, everything that's in my hands down. I don't drop it, put it down, and I stop. Just a split second. Just that split second of wait. It helps me identify first who or what is causing this rush immediately, because that thing that is moving, right? That is driving you to do what you don't want to do or rushing you into that feeling is going to roadblock at you, is what's going to happen. So let's say it's like an escalator, right? And it's going down and there's no stopping it. It just keeps going. And what you do is you have a magical switch that can just stop that escalator, right? And you stop that escalator. Now, the feeling of what kept everything in motion or is pushing or driving everything, let's say it's that lever, right? If that lever starts again without you controlling it, that's the force that's moving, right? That's the thing that's making you move forward, right? So if we take that switch and we just apply it to whatever or whoever is in your way or behind you or around you or underneath you trying to get you to move, that's what is going to have to take focus. That right there is going to make you go, wow, this is what's making me rush. This thing or person is making me do things that I don't want to necessarily do. As in, not a bad way, but making you feel a certain way, right? Making you feel like you have to move quickly through whatever you're working through. And that's an issue. That's an issue that I always freaking have, is just being able to stop. Just stop, because that immovable force is going to just stop, because that constant moving source is going to hold up on you and you're going to recognize what it is. That's what I do. I stop and I just recognize what is driving that thing forward, right? Another example of this that I have when I was a kid was people, right? Um I would be at Walmart, right, when I was a teenager, and I would notice that people walk slow. Legit, like, I'm not it's kind of a joke, but it's not a joke. People walk slow, and I walk with a good pace. I walk pretty quick compared to most people. People comment on that all the time. I say, "Where's the fire? What's the rush? What are you in such a hurry for?" I'm not in a hurry. I'm just not moving at the pace that you're moving at, you know? And that is either going to make you feel like you're having to rush forward, or it's going to make me feel like I have to rush past, right? This happens a lot. And in those moments, obviously, I'm not able to just stop, and recognize what I'm doing or who's pushing me to do things. In that moment, it's me that's rushing to do that. And I guess that's kind of a traumatic response to my fight or flight of just go, 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 or fight whatever's causing me to rush, right? I never really know which is which. My fight or flight instincts are kind of messed up. I'm not going to lie. Um, that is one of the moments when I realize you're doing this to yourself, you know? That is when I realize, okay, that first rule of just like stop everything is not going to work, because you're only hurting yourself in that moment. So I want to say step 1A or step 1B, right? Step 1A, stop. Step 1B, recognize. So we want to recognize what the driving force is, whether it's ourselves, whether it's other people, whether it's an object, whether it's a thing, an animal or something is making you rush. And once you recognize it, then you can start processing how you're feeling about it. And if I would have practiced this last episode, we talked about practice, practice, practice. Consistency is one of my coworkers said consistency. Yes, you're correct. Consistency. Um, if I would have practiced this more as a kid, um, it will move faster when I try to do it again, right? Um, so stop, recognize. That's how quickly that process will happen in an instant if you know what you're doing. If you're like me and you have a issue processing this stuff, I want to blame it on my ADHD again, but if you have a problem, focusing on too many different things at once, it's good to stop. That's that first step is stop and then recognize. That right there can make all the difference. And I've learned this over the course of the year, and it's helped me in plenty of ways. If this has helped you out in a way and you're kind of relating to this, drop a comment below, give me like a thumbs up or something. Let me know like you're thinking about it. Um, and it's hitting home. Okay. Uh, so with that, step two, yeah, I want to say step two. Step two is to process. Okay. So you're going to stop, you're going to recognize, then you're going to process. We're going to process what it's making you do. Because if you're rushing through something, it's easy to make mistakes. And mistakes can be, I want to say, dire sometimes. Mistakes can be a hit or miss. Does that make sense? Um, sometimes there is a such thing as a happy mistake or like a good mistake. But most of the time when you're rushing through something and you make a mistake, right? You get frustrated. You get angry. Let's say I rushed to make my cup of coffee. If I would have rushed to make this cup of coffee, I would have spilt Sweet and Low all over the counter. My coffee grounds would have been destroyed and not like fine. They probably would have been more crushed than fine. And I have a glass pour over. Wow, took me a minute to process that one. Pour over coffee machine where I just take boiling water and I ground up the coffee beans myself, and I make like the powder and whatnot, and then I put it in the top and I pour the boiling water slowly over top of it, and it makes a drip. And this drip goes into face. I'll have to make a video of it again for TikTok. I did make one before, but if I were to rush that coffee making process, there is a chance that I'm going to spill stuff. There's a chance that I'm going to drop my cute little Jigglypuff mug, right? There's a chance that the glass container, right, that I use to make my coffee is going to break. It is glass. I don't wanna break a glass container, you know? That's a big thing for me. That coffee little thing is like my daily routine of it helps, you know? It helps me slow down and go, "Okay, now you have to boil water," right? Then you have to clean the pot every day, you gotta rinse it out. Um, you gotta get the coffee grounds ground up. You gotta put them in the top, wait for that boiling water to boil, and then slowly pour it into the top of this thing. And you can't overflow it. You can't just dump it all in at once, right? You have to stop. You have to recognize what's pushing you forward and go, okay, I want this coffee. I am going to make this coffee and I'm going to take a slow process on it because I don't want to rush it. And the result, I can say, I do like my coffee. Not gonna lie, everybody loves their coffee, but I do like my coffee. It tastes good, and I put a little bit of effort behind it, not much, but a little bit of effort behind it, and that little bit of effort helped me stop the rush of just pouring a cup of coffee. No. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I'm gonna do it the fancy way. I'm gonna slow brew it, and then I'm gonna prove to myself that I'm able to just stop and recognize what's pushing me forward. Still trying to get this microphone set just perfect on it. But I'm not gonna rush the process. I'm not gonna rush into making this podcast. I know it takes a lot to it seems like it I know it seems like it takes a lot to even just brew a cup of coffee for me. But if that's what I'm going to do, that's going to make me feel like I'm not rushed to do it. That's that's how I'm going to do it. And it's going to help me as a person develop a better trust in the process that I'm going for. Stop and recognize. Just stop and recognize. Okay? And once you recognize, you can process. You can do the due process. Okay? That's what helps me. And if it helps anybody else, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful for that because it takes time to process. It really does. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? That's my whole intention is doing it better so that I know for a fact that I can jump from one to the next without feeling rushed. Processing that emotion without feeling the rush or the push to have to do it. You know? That right there is going to help me a lot in the future. And it's something that has helped me throughout this whole year. Um before as as I've said before, as a kid, I know I keep bringing up my childhood, weird, but it all stems from when I was younger and not being able to process these emotions. So as a kid, um, it was. Have you ever heard the expression "Go to your room, think about what you did"? That punishment, I would say, the discipline of that did not sit right with me. In those moments of frustration where I wasn't able to properly process the emotion, I didn't know what to do or how to process it. So when I was, you know, put in a spot where I had to be by myself to process that emotion, I didn't ever really know what I was doing. When they said think about what you did, I already thought about what I did. I just did it faster. I just thought about it faster than I should have. I processed that emotion and stuff way quicker than I should have. I should have stopped. I should have recognized and I should have sat and waited to process what is happening. And then I could have realized, wow, I'm frustrated. Why am I frustrated? That's the next step, right? So You're going to process it and you're going to realize, oh, wow, I'm just anxious. Or, wow, I'm just overthinking it. Oh, wow, I'm just overwhelmed. Oh, wow, I'm just very, very overstimulated. Once you realize what you're feeling at that moment and you can and you can really sit with it and really know what's going on with that process, you're gonna recognize how to calm yourself down, you know? So, for example, right? If I would have known if I would have known that being overstimulated was what it was, as in too many things happening at once and too many people talking or too many people in one area doing too much, and my focus can't be on one place. It's got to be on seven different things, and those seven different things are all overwhelming. It can cause a rage or it can cause a frustration. And that cause and frustration causes overstimulation, which I get it now. As an adult, I understand what overstimulation means and being overwhelmed. I understand what being overwhelmed means, you know? And I guess being able to process that emotion has helped me out a lot this year in realizing it. Oh, wow. I broke this because I was rushing to do something. And now I am frustrated because that thing that I was working on that broke isn't existent anymore. So all of the work that I just did on that thing is for nothing or non existent. Right? That's just an example. That's just an example. If that relates to you, thank you. I relate to it as well. It takes a lot for me to process things. So, first and foremost, I'm sorry for anybody who has had to deal with the overstimulated me or frustrated version of me before, because I didn't know how to handle or process those emotions. My bad, being who I am and what I recognize now is that was a side of me that I wish nobody had ever seen. I wish that I knew how to process that stuff, so then the outcome of recognizing what I was feeling so that I could process that would have came out better. And through past relationships, not just relationships, but with friendships and family relationships, I I feel the regret of, well, maybe I should have thought about that differently. So, yeah, yeah, just processing your emotions can be something that um it can be something that's like beneficial, and at the same time it can be enlightening to figure that stuff out. What I mean by enlightening is more um like I said, being able to process those emotions. So we're gonna run it back again. Number one is stop. Okay. Number one A, stop. A B, all right. Number one A, stop. One B is to recognize. Recognize what you're doing. Number two is to process. Okay? Process what you're feeling at that moment. Do the process. Think about it. And number three is to feel. Feel what you're feeling. Feeling frustrated? Know that it's okay. You're feeling frustrated. That happens. It's okay. Where you let that frustration out is what matters, okay? Um I remember when my mom used to comfort me as a child. She used to, hug on me and she would be like, "Listen, if you're upset or something, I understand, you know, but you can't just go crazy. You can't just go wild. And it used to feel constricting, right? Um, let's say I was really frustrated and I was hot. Like my body would physically get ragey hot. And my grandmother or my aunt or my mother would hug me, be like, "Hey, I understand it. I'm here for you." Adding another heat source, as in love, radiates differently when you're frustrated and overstimulated. When you're overstimulated, the last thing I want when I'm overstimulated is to be touched. Honestly, that's just how it is, and I don't know why my brain recognizes overstimulation as no touchy, but it does. It just no touchy, okay? Um, Now, as an adult, I realize why I didn't like that physical contact was because I was overstimulated, and I didn't know how to explain it's too much. I'm overwhelmed. I didn't know how to explain that because I felt like I was rushed through my emotions. I was pushed to you have to feel you have to feel comforted right now. Me hugging you is going to instant fix everything. It's going to cover everything. That wasn't true in my case. Like I it was hard for me to process. It was hard for me to process that quickly, that kind of overstimulation and that emotion. So, explaining, I would say, explaining that emotion to whatever you recognize is making you rush, right? Processing it and then figuring out the emotion and then explaining that emotion. That is so difficult to do. Like, I really don't know how to explain that except okay, story time. I I woke up for work um earlier this week, right? Um it was I think on a Sunday night. Yeah, because my podcast had Focus had aired on that morning. So that night I had to go to work. And I was I got up and I was late. I was running late and felt the rush that, oh no, we have to go, 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 go. The escalator was moving, but I wasn't moving fast enough. Yeah, I guess I wasn't moving fast enough for my own brain to go, hey, you're doing good. You're on track. And I jumped up. I started getting dressed, put on my deodorant, brushed my teeth really fast. I fixed my hair up into a bandana. I got all my clothes on. I got ready to go. I got my boots on. I went and started the car. I came back inside. I grabbed my book bag. I put some water inside my book bag. I grabbed some chewing gum. I put my chewing gum inside my book bag. And then I was about to walk out the door. Then I had forgot my headphones. So I turned around and I went to go get my headphones, but my boots were already on my feet. So I can't just walk across the carpet because the carpet will get dirty and then I'd have to vacuum it this weekend. And so I had to take off my boots, go grab my headphones. Got my headphones, put my boots back on, got my bag, went out to the car. Realized I didn't have my necklace on. And it's one of my sacred things is that I need to have my necklace on. If you know me from work, you know that I always wear my necklaces, right? So I go back inside and I take my boots off. Then I look for my necklace. I find my necklace. I put my necklace on. I look in the mirror. I realize I didn't put any gauges in my ears. And I was like, shoot, I need to leave. So I went into the bathroom, grabbed some gauges, came back out, grabbed my boots, laced up my boots. I got out the door and I locked the door. I got all the way to the car and then I realized that I left my living room lights on. Mistakes are going to happen when you're rushing. And if you don't realize what is causing you to rush or feel that way and process that emotion, you're going to get frustrated. And that's exactly what happened. I got really frustrated, got out the car, started, you know, crap talking myself. I'm like, you're forgetful, you fool. And I can't curse because YouTube and stuff like that is like censored. But you get the idea. I started talking really bad about myself. And I didn't mean any of it, but like at the same time, I could have handled that better. So I went out to the door, I turned off the light, I got in the car, I started going down the road. And at this moment, I don't know what possessed me to do number one, but I stopped. I went and I pulled over to a parking lot and I just stopped for a second. Stopped and I recognized what was making me rush late for work, right? Is I was late for work. The unstoppable object was work. I needed to get to work. So I realized that and I said, okay, I was a little frustrated, a little frustrated. It's okay. Frustration is being brought upon mistakes being made. Okay. And this is the process that I went through. I stopped, recognized, processed everything, got the emotion, and started to contemplate that emotion. And I thought about it and I was like, I did nothing wrong, though. I didn't break anything. Nothing went wrong. The only thing I got frustrated about was frivolous and very small, right? Minuscule stuff. Forgetting the light, forgetting my headphones, forgetting my necklace. It's all very small stuff. But in my brain, you heard the ramble. In my brain, it all hit at once. The taking the boots off, the putting the boots on, the carpet, all that, like, starting the car, things like that, it all hit at once. And I had no time to process it. I was rushing, right? So I made mistakes and I got upset. I ended up pulling over, I stopped, and I was like, listen, maybe don't need to be rushing at this moment. It was a level 2 snow emergency, so there was a lot of snow on the ground. I think we were getting about 8 inches that night. Inches. No, we was getting about 8 inches of snow, right? And, usually I can handle 8 inches, but, uh, my car is a front wheel drive car, and it was fresh snow, so it was icy out, and I said, "You know what? This is not the ideal situation to be rushing in." Like, maybe you need to calm down and take it just a little step at a time. It, that you know what? Got farther down the road as I was going. I said, I don't think I'm going to make it to work tonight. Said, I really don't think I'm going to make it tonight. The roads are pretty bad. I'm feeling pretty frustrated already. I thought I was going to maybe just calm down on the way to work, right? I smoked a little cigarette. I felt better. Um, but the roads were still kind of crappy. I said, "Oh, all right, well, I'm going to pull over. First of all, I'm going to pull over. I'm going to contact my job. I'm going to call and I'm going to say that the roads are bad and I can't come in. So I'm going to use one of my unassigned point days to call off for the night and get myself feeling right again." As I was grabbing my phone to call off, right? And this is like 9:50, 9:30 at night, right? Because I work third shift. I look at my phone and there's a message. And I'm like, oh. So I swipe down on my notifications bar. It's my job. They just texted at 8:47, 15 minutes before I started this rushing panic, okay? And they said that work was canceled that night because of the snow emergency. Yep. I had rushed, made myself frustrated, got all the way down the road just to realize I didn't have work. Wow. Immediately, that frustration just went, "Bye-bye." It went, "Later." And I was like, "All right, let's turn around. Let's go home." Budget, right? People of the world, let me tell you, when you learn to just say "fudge it" and go home, that feeling was amazing. I was like, "Ah, yes." I got into my house. I said, "Oh, give me a warm blanket," and I passed right out. I fell right asleep. Was supposed to lock in and do stuff social media wise, but I just fell asleep. Said whatever. Went through all that rush, all that frustration for nothing. For nothing. But that's okay. That's okay. Because I did exactly what I was supposed to do. Stopped, recognized, processed, got the emotion, and I realized it and recognized what I needed to do. Said okay. And it all worked out for the best. I didn't even have to work that night. Woo! Made up for it though later this week. I had to work a couple 12-hour shifts. But I got my 40 hours. I got my 40 hours. I did. Made sure of it. But yeah, going back to what I was saying before, as long as we can process the emotion and understand that emotion, things are going to get better, you know? Um, want everybody out there who is taking this little bits of advice to take time to recognize what emotions mean. I keep saying recognize, but that's the word. Like you're going to actually have to exercise this stuff and realize what those emotions actually are. You know? Because you can say all day, "Ooh, I'm frustrated." And not actually know what frustration means. You can say all day, "Oh, I'm overstimulated," but not actually know what that means. So, someone says to you, "I'm just frustrated," or "I'm just overwhelmed," or "I'm overstimulated." Really process what they mean by that because it's going to help you recognize your own emotions later as well. I Google everything. So when someone says something that I don't recognize fully or like know what it means, I wish I would have looked it up earlier in life, but I get to Google those terms and those things so then I can actually learn what they're talking about, you know? Um and it just helps, you know? Realizing and recognizing exactly what emotions mean can help you find a solution for those emotions. Okay? I just that's it. You know what I mean? Don't rush. Don't rush, guys. Take your time. Take your time and the outcome will be amazing because you're amazing. Okay? That's all I can really say about that. Yeah, that's all I really know about that. Don't rush. Don't rush into things. Don't make hasty decisions. If you keep doing that, it's going to push boundaries that you don't want to be in, you know? Yeah. Just like this podcast, I don't want to rush into things, you know? I don't want to rush into building this podcast into something that I don't like doing. You know? Like I like doing this right here right now. It's not hard. It's not difficult. It's easy for me to do. Um that's why I have one microphone and one interface. That's all I have. And I'm going to run a full-fledged podcast off of just light, camera, and a microphone. That's it, really. That's all I'm going to give it. For now, for now. Um processing all this data and everything. I Making music was hard for me to do because you had to do a bunch of editing and all this stuff, and like the podcast is real easy to do. You just sit down and you talk about what's bothering you that week. For me, this week it's rushing. I'm not rushing this podcast. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just chill with it, relax, show people like, look, I stopped, I processed the emotion, right? I recognized what was pushing me forward. I processed that emotion and I went, okay, let's make a podcast, you know? Easy peasy. Don't rush it. Don't push, you know? Push and turn into something that you're not going to like, that you're not going to like doing, you know? I like doing it. So don't rush. Process your emotions, peoples. You like my suit? Right? Right? Looks nice. I love the purple shirt with the jacket. I love suits. I've realized that lately. Um, my outfit is very demure. It's very satisfying. What it is. I got all, dolled up for this podcast because I put effort in. I did. I came home, exercised, I took a shower, I shaved up, put on some makeup, did my hair a little bit, put on some nice jewelry, and I got in a nice suit. And I decided to sit down and make a cup of coffee, and do this podcast. I didn't rush anything and feel pretty good about the outcome. So, yeah. Yeah. I feel pretty good about that. Don't rush. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this content, go ahead and drop that thumbs up. Comment, what you would like to see next or something that you would like to talk about, or if you have any kind of like advice or stories that you want to tell, go ahead, drop them in the comments. Hit that share button. Head over to my Facebook. Go ahead and follow me on there. All my links should be in the description of the video. I have Twitter. I have TikTok. I have Instagram. I'm I am trying to build a brand and process this podcast into something great. So if you head over to my Patreon, you can subscribe for $5.99 a month or $10.99 a month and get unlimited trippy. Hello. You can get access to my music early. When I have merchandise, you will get certain promo codes for that merchandise and get a cheaper discount. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Head over to my Patreon. Help me out there a lot, please. Because if I get crowdfunding and I get a distribution for this podcast, it's going to be on Spotify. It's going to be on Apple Music. It's going to be everywhere. And then I can really have people like it up. So go ahead. Head on over to those links. They're down below. I appreciate you. Stay trippy.